What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we have got another live fantasy football mock draft for you back on FantasyPros, and this will be a 12-team full-point PPR mock with the 12th overall selection for us, so should be pretty interesting. And as always, our roster: 1 quarterback, 2 RBs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and 5 bench spots. But that's pretty much it, so let's get into this thing. And while this loads, a quick reminder: if you guys enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe. Also check us out on Twitter at alldaypigskin and online at alldaypigskin.com. All the details in the description. But it's our turn to make a selection here. And before doing so, I do want to look at the draft board to see some of these selections prior to our 12th pick here. And the first 4 picks, pretty standard: McCaffrey, Barkley, Cook, Alvin Kamara. Nothing too crazy there. Then first wide receiver off the board, Devontae Adams. That makes sense. You got Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, Jonathan Taylor, Stephon Diggs, Ezekiel Elliott, Austin Eckler. And I continue to say this: Austin Eckler is right now shaping up to be a great value. We'll see how things maybe potentially change after the NFL draft, but right now I think he's going to be a slam dunk RB1 in PPR. And you've probably seen so many of my mocks where I continue to hammer that point. If Eckler is there, I try and get some stock in him, but that won't be the case here. But I am glad to see him making his way into a deserved first round selection, especially in PPR settings. But right now, because we have the 12th pick overall, basically what we need to do here is at least get 1 running back, because we're going to have to wait a while until we get to make, another back-to-back selections. That's the trade-off of having one of these extreme picks, either the first or last pick in the draft. So basically what I'm hinting at is that one of these picks is a running back, and it'll probably be Nick Chubb. Yes, you could argue that Nick Chubb isn't as valuable in full-point PPR scoring as he would be in standard leagues, and he does have Kareem Hunt there, which is going to hurt some of his opportunities, but this is still a run-first offense for the Cleveland Browns. So there's a lot to like with Nick Chubb, and I think overall he's a safe pick. There's some other guys to consider as far as tier 3 running backs: Swift, Mixon, Gibson, Akers, Sanders. But again, I think you could argue that Nick Chubb has maybe a higher floor than all of them. And then because of that, my second pick here will be probably on the wide receiver side of things. I want to try and keep this, a little bit safer in terms of selections with my first 2 picks, not have guys that are, questionable without 100% defined roles. So with that being said, we're going to go to our first pick. That will be Nick Chubb. And then since we don't really like any of these other running backs too much, I will take a wide receiver here, and I'm between Tyreek Hill and DeAndre Hopkins, but I will go with Tyreek Hill. I think he has a little bit higher upside than DeAndre Hopkins, so let's go ahead and add him to our roster and see what happens afterwards in these next couple of rounds, because like I said, it's going to be a while until we make another pick, and we're, gonna see a lot of other players be drafted, and we won't be able to do too much about it. So let's break down what happened in the second and third round. Joe Mixon after our Tyreek Hill selection. Then you see a run on wide receivers: Hopkins, Metcalf, Michael Thomas. Makes all the sense in the world to me. Miles Sanders, I think, maybe a little bit early considering guys like Gibson and Cam Akers were there. Then Calvin Ridley, Travis Kelce, good value on Kelce, Keenan Allen, A.J. Brown, George Kittle, Patrick Mahomes. Way too early for a quarterback in the second round. In the third round, forget about it. This is a 1 quarterback league. You could very well get a quarterback much later on that you would be fine with. Then you see Clyde Edwards-Helaire, DeAndre Swift, Justin Jefferson, Terry McLaurin, and then Darren Waller to the team that already had Travis Kelce. That's one way to do things: load up on all the talent in the world. I guess, one of them in the tight end spot, the other in the flex spot, but that team is going to be hurting at the running back position because they've got Adams, Kelce, and Waller, going with the 0 running back approach. So We'll see. I'm going to be really interested to see what that team looks like here in the 4th and 5th round. Then Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, Gibson Akers, great value, I think, on Cam Akers. Also, great value on Julio Jones and Robert Woods. So we're in a bit of a tough situation here, and we have to look at value, in my opinion. And a name that is jumping off the pages, in my eyes, is someone like a DJ Moore. Mike Evans is someone that I like, but I do think with a healthy Chris Godwin for the entirety of the year that Evans will be the number 2 wide receiver for the Bucs. I do like Adam Thielen as potentially a PPR guy. I'd probably say that right now, as far as the wide receivers are concerned, I'm between DJ Moore and Adam Thielen. I'm looking at the running backs. James Robinson is the guy that I would be targeting here, and in fact, he will be one of my selections. There really isn't a guy behind him that I think would threaten his workload, and we saw how successful he was last season. Now, we'll see if he can duplicate that. The Jaguars are obviously going to get some help at the quarterback position, so maybe to balance out that offense a little bit and make Robinson a little bit more of a threat, because we know that the Jaguars won't just run it on every single play. So, he could break off some bigger plays. He'll be a little bit more rested. It's a situation where I think James Robinson could benefit. So I'm looking at him as one of our selections. And like I said before, I just think with the fact that you have one of these extreme picks, whether it's the first or the last pick in however big of a draft you have to look at it as if, these next couple of rounds, your options are really going to take a hit. And if you want to go with a starting caliber running back, you have to do it now, especially considering that our first 2 selections was running back, wide receiver, kind of balanced there. So let's go add James Robinson right now. I think he's a good value. And afterwards, I'm going to go with one of the guys that I mentioned previously, and that is either DJ Moore or Adam Thielen. And I'm thinking about it, kind of on the fence, but I will go with probably DJ Moore here. I like the upside a little bit more so just because maybe Justin Jefferson taking over that role where Adam Thielen is becoming the number 2 wide receiver on that offense clearly. And obviously both teams have a very run-oriented type of offense. One team has Dalvin Cook, another has Christian McCaffrey. They're both good pass catchers. So I do think it comes down to just preference at that point in time. But again, let's take a look at the draft board and how things have played out. And again, after our selection of DJ Moore, you see Mike Evans, Amari Cooper, Josh Allen, Deontay Johnson, Josh Jacobs, Chris Carson, Cooper Kupp, Montgomery. So a couple things to point out. Josh Jacobs all the way down to the 4th round. That makes sense. Honestly, I think Chris Carson was a great value where he went after Josh Jacobs, Cooper Kupp, Montgomery, T. Higgins. You see our run on wide receivers now. Higgins, Thielen, CeeDee Lamb, Ayuk, Lockett, and then some quarterbacks. Dak, Kyler Murray also here in the 5th round. So it's interesting. You also see Mark Andrews, that next tight end off the board. And as far as tight ends, we could start potentially looking at that position. A guy that I really like, and, no coincidence, you could argue is the next best available player, TJ Hawkinson. And I think personally that he's going to have a Darren Waller type of breakout year this season. Jared Goff is more than a capable, quarterback. And right now, Hawkinson is arguably the top pass catcher for the Lions. Yes, there will be a rookie that's brought in at the wide receiver position, but Hawkinson is still the most experienced guy in this offense. So I'm probably going to go Hawkinson, and then another running back that I did not think would be here in our next selection, that is Melvin Gordon. I continue to say this. Melvin Gordon, without Phillip Lindsay on that Denver offense, I think he could be a very good value, and I'm more than happy to have him as my 3rd running back. So I like the depth piece. We're going to address the tight end position as well, in my opinion, with the next best available tight end by far. So let's go ahead and add TJ Hawkinson. And then our next pick, like I alluded to, will be Melvin Gordon. So again, let's take a look at our roster a little bit. We've got Nick Chubb already, James Robinson, Tyreek Hill, DJ Moore. So it's, I think, shaping up to be pretty decent considering where we selected and the fact that we just had to go get our guys and nothing was guaranteed in terms of great value, and we couldn't really rely on players dropping to us. So this is where it gets interesting, however. When we get to this point late in the 7th, 8th round, I think this is where we're really going to be tested. And again, quickly going through some of these other picks after our Melvin Gordon selection, Lamar Jackson, that's tempting in the 6th round. Kareem Hunt, so he lasts not that much longer after Melvin Gordon. Boyd, run on tight ends, Fant, Goddard, Jonnu Smith, then Myles Gaskin, Deshaun Watson, Najee Harris. We've got a running back from one of the rookies, Cortland Sutton, DJ Shark, Michael Pittman, Aaron Rodgers, Cooks, Landry, Wilson, Leonard Fournette. So at this point, almost every single team other than me, in fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's only one team other than me that doesn't have a quarterback. So that's just something to keep an eye out for and realize that we could get some value at other positions and then wait to address quarterback maybe a couple of rounds later. And honestly, that's probably what I'm going to do and just add depth pieces at this point in time, unless there's a quarterback that I really, really, really like, which, Jalen Hurts, Tom Brady, Joe Burrow, Matthew Stafford, I'd be all right with any one of those guys being my starting quarterback. And I don't think we're going to see in the next couple of rounds one of these guys go off the board as a backup. So I'm all right with it. Now we can turn our attention to, like I said, some good value picks. And I'm looking specifically at the wide receiver position. I don't really want to touch any of these running backs. Ronald Jones, Raheem Mostert, David Johnson, forget about it. All in horrible running back by committee situations. So I'm not really interested in that. As far as the wide receivers are concerned, if I had to rank these group of guys, I'd probably say that Chase Claypool is the highest on my list, followed by Deebo Samuel. If he can stay healthy, that's something you have to consider. And then Curtis Samuel. So right now, I'm just going to go and select Chase Claypool. He's going to be one of my picks. I think he's got some high touchdown upside, and I don't mind adding him at this point in time. And then Curtis Samuel could be that next pick, but we'll see. I think Deebo Samuel is also a very solid pick, potentially. A guy that we could take could be someone like a Mike Davis at the running back position. He isn't ranked nearly high enough, but I'm just going to, again, get depth pieces at the wide receiver position. And I mentioned Deebo Samuel. I really do like Brendan Ayuk. It's tough. I do think that you're going to see maybe even Brendan Ayuk emerge as the number one wide receiver for the 49ers. There is risk injury with Deebo Samuel. So the more and more I think about it, the more and more I think I'm just going to pivot to another wide receiver. And let me quickly again look at these weapons. Devontae Parker is someone that's intriguing with another year with Tua and then getting another presumably maybe wide receiver or, offensive target to take some pressure off him. I don't mind Devontae Parker, honestly, the more I think about it. So I think that's the direction I'm going to go with this pick. Let's get Devontae Parker on our team. And then afterwards, we can address the quarterback position and then maybe even get a, look at backup running backs, things like that. Either way, I think we're going to be more than good when we look at what's left on the board, specifically at the quarterback position. And like I said, we've still got the majority of those guys: Jalen Hurts, Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford. I've said it before with Jalen Hurts, he's a guy that has some really nice high upside, having that rushing ability. And I'll get him, and then probably with the last pick in this draft, get a backup quarterback. I think Matthew Stafford is extremely underrated on that great LA Rams offense with a very stable defense as well. But let's go and just add Jalen Hurts at this point in time. He will be one of our selections. And afterwards, looking maybe again at some of these running backs, what we could do here. Devin Singletary, Tariq Cohen, Hines, Tony Pollard. So we're in kind of the handcuff territory. Naheem Hines in full point PPR is tempting. Marlon Mack is back, though, so that'll be interesting. You look at the other running back names, Dylan, Jamal Williams, Latavius Murray, James White. None of those names really get me all that excited about the possibilities. I'm looking at wide receiver options. If I knew that Antonio Brown would re-sign with the Tampa Bay Bucks, he would be, I would say, a lot higher on my list, but that's still obviously not the case. But a guy in Jamison Crowder is someone that I do like. When he is available and not hurt, he's a very reliable PPR option. Yes, Corey Davis is there, but, Jamison Crowder is the guy that has the most experience on that offense when looking at all those wide receivers. So I do like his upside. And Corey Davis, has still yet to kind of prove that he could be that alpha guy. So let's go and add Jamison Crowder here. I do like that pick. And then we will have to make our final 2 selections in this draft. One of them will be a backup quarterback just for insurance sake in case Jalen Hurts does kind of flop. And I mentioned it before, Matthew Stafford is someone that I really like. So let's go ahead and add him there. And then the last player here that we could take, I'm looking at the options. Again, I'm not that desperate to take a running back, if I have to be honest with you guys, because I've got Nick Chubb, I've got James Robinson, and Melvin Gordon, all guys that I really, really like. And, I think Melvin Gordon has got low-end RB1 upside. Same with James Robinson. Nick Chubb is a solid RB1. So right now, I'm kind of just looking for those, if you will, hidden treasures kind of situation. Is there a guy at the tight end position that could potentially be of a value? Let's see as a backup tight end in case TJ Hawkinson, something, there's struggles there. But I'm not really seeing anyone that I take right now. Evan Ingram, Rudolph is there. Hayden Hurst, Falcons could draft someone like Kyle Pitts. So I'm probably going to pass on that position and instead just go with a wide receiver. And I said it before, I think Antonio Brown is a, low risk, high reward type of selection, especially at this point in the draft. So I'm just going to go with that mindset. I have gone wide receiver heavy. If you look at my bench, 3 wide receivers, no running backs. But again, we've got 3 starting running backs on our starting roster. So I'm not too worried about it. Let's go add Antonio Brown and then see what our overall grade is here. My guess would probably be something along the realms of a mid-B, B- type of situation. So, okay, C+, B-, right around that range. And I think that when you select, again, the takeaway message here from that final pick, that you're going to have to make some tough decisions and don't always expect, great value picks to drop to you. I'll say the one value pick that I really like that I think we got lucky with was Melvin Gordon in the 6th round, the beginning of the 6th round. To me, that was our best value pick. I would have loved it if Julio Jones could have slipped to us at the end of the 3rd round. That would have been a great pick. But again, having that last pick in the, in these selections, it doesn't necessarily give you that benefit. All in all, I do think we probably put together a roster that, could contend here. And I like the way we approach the quarterback position. It'd be something that I recommend. If you go someone that's boom or bust in Jalen Hurts, get a backup quarterback afterwards. That also has a nice high floor, and Matthew Stafford definitely checks that box. Running back, we don't have necessarily a guy that's going to blow up every single week, but I like our pieces. They're solid pieces. You've got a guy with a very high ceiling in Tyreek Hill, DJ Moore as potentially a high upside wide receiver as well that could take that next step. TJ Hawkinson, I do think you could say that he'd be the 4th best tight end on the year, so I do like that pick. I love the Melvin Gordon pick. And then the bench spots, I think probably here, if we added another running back, we could have gotten a little bit of a higher grade, but C+, B-, I'd probably say B- more so is the grade that I would give it. But as always, let me hear it in the comment section. Did you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have? And if you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe. Also, give us a follow on Twitter at alldaypigskin. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.